All right. Hi, and welcome to the webinar. I'm calling it Business Planning 101. In other words, how to finish the year strong. And basically what we're going to walk through today is how I do my quarterly business planning, which sounds sounds a bit intimidating, but I'm going to walk you through it. It's pretty simple, what I do every quarter. And I think that this time heading into the fourth quarter of the year at the beginning of October is the most important step of that, because I think a lot of times when people talk about business planning, that happens at the first of the year, and we tend to let the last couple months of the year go by with the holidays, and it's typically a slow time for a lot of businesses, and we tend to let that go by without any type of planning or without trying to finish the year strong. So I want to talk about that today. Here is what we are going to talk through, kind of my process. We're going to start out talking about goals. We're going to go through finances, products and services, marketing, hiring, and then finally we're going to talk about priorities and how to make sure that what you tackle during this planning day, what you tackle during this business planning kind of session, makes it to actuality, turns into execution. And how do we make sure that it kind of doesn't just stay on the to-do list as you get back into the swing of every day running your business. But first things first, a quick introduction if you're new around here. My name is Brett Rowley. I am all of these things. I'm a business strategist. I'm a marketing consultant, lover of entrepreneurship in general, and I'm the creator of a Side Hustle Starter Kit, which is essentially a download of everything in my brain, what I would tell people if they were starting their own businesses. But most importantly, I'm personal assistant to my dog, Melly. There she is. If you hear her in the background, she typically is super quiet all day, and as soon as I start recording, likes to find a squirrel to bark at. So that is a little bit about me. At the end, I'll share my contact information, so if you have questions as we go along, definitely jump in, shoot me a note, and I'd be happy to answer it. So let's get started. I love this quote by Rachel Hollis. She's a great content creator, and I love to follow her. And she says she runs a 90-day challenge at the end of every year. And this quote is, "What if you committed to living your last 90 days of this year as hard as you're committed to living the first 30 days of the new year?" And I think this is so great, because I've actually written a blog post before about how much I hate New Year's resolutions, because they so often are discarded by the time we get to February or March. And I think that this quote really summarizes the opportunity that we have heading into the last few months of the year, really finishing strong and setting ourselves up as, to be a launch pad for the new year, rather than having to do what seems often like starting over in January and saying, oh, okay, I've let all these things fall by the wayside as the year has gone on. Let me kind of restart in January. Here we have the opportunity to really build some momentum, so that in January we can really, build on that, which is what I want for you guys, what I plan on doing throughout the end of the year. So I look at this as a one-day restart, and I like to dedicate an entire day to being strategic. And what I mean by that is do the best that I can to eliminate any distractions, to avoid doing any client work, and really spend a full work day dedicated to working on my business, which is so hard to do when you're juggling so many things, especially if you're a one-man show and you have deadlines to hit and emails to respond to. But I think it's really important to give yourself that kind of quiet time and that space to dedicate an entire day towards planning for the future of your business. And here's what I want to do, or what I want you to do before you jump into the business planning piece of it. I want you to clear your to-do list. If you're anything like me, if there are things on my to-do list that I haven't done yet, that I know are, have a deadline, or I need to get that done that day, there's no way I'm going to be able to focus on being strategic and thinking about the future for my business. So I want you to clear your to-do list. I want you to empty your email inbox and, respond to those emails that you absolutely have to get back to that person about. And then I want you to set up an out of office reply, so that you feel like you've given yourself the freedom to not check your email inbox every 30 minutes, to not have those notifications turned on your phone, so that you can, really be focused on what we're doing. I always like to go somewhere new. A little change of scenery goes a long way, especially if you have a team, if you're, working with your team on this or involving them in the business planning process. Rent out an office space for the day that's different than where you guys normally work. Go to a coffee shop if it's nice and quiet and you can get some some dedicated space to spend the day in. Go somewhere new and use that as kind of a mental break from your day to day so that you guys can be super productive in this one day kickstart that I like to call it. And finally, we talked about eliminating distractions. Turn your phones off. Don't have your email inboxes up. Avoid social media. Do what you need to do so that you can give your all to investing in your business and planning for the future. So once all that is done, once you feel like, okay, you're in a good spot, I can really focus, I'm excited about what's coming next, then we're going to review. So we're going to say, okay, before we jump into goal setting, before we jump into the planning piece of it, we've got to review where we are now and how we got there. So I like to start with a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you're not familiar with that type of a model, strengths are essentially what you have as a business or as a business owner that you see as an asset for your business. Weaknesses are the exact opposite. What do you see as something that's taking away from your business? And both of those things, strengths and weaknesses, are internal facing. So what is, as it pertains to your own business. Opportunities and threats are just what they say, except in terms of the market. So what do you see as an opportunity in the market at large? And then what do you see as a threat within your industry or within your market? Review your goals. So if you are a big goal setter and you have set goals either for the year or for the quarter or for the month, however you manage your goal setting, review the goals that you have set for yourself for the year, and then make notes on where you are in achieving those goals. And I also we'll talk a bit about goal setting in a minute, but I also like to look at what we call leading indicators of goals. And what that is essentially, okay, if I'm not all the way there yet, if I've set a goal of making $100,000 this year, I'm obviously not going to be there, right away, right? If we're checking goals 3 months in, 6 months in, 9 months in, that's going to be something that is evolving. But having those leading indicators, how are my sales looking? What do my accounts receivable look like? So you get a full picture of those goals rather than just saying, oh, I haven't reached that yet. We're going to put that in red. Finally, I want you to review your revenue and expenses, and we'll talk more in depth in this when we get to this section, but you want to have those financial numbers ready so that you can project and say, okay, if this is where we are at this point in the year, here's what we're expecting over the final quarter, and then we can project that onto 2019 for any growth that we're looking to see in terms of our finances. All right. So now that you have all of that, you've got your quiet space, you've got your team together, or you've set aside the day to dedicate to business planning, the first thing that we want to do is set goals. And we've just reviewed them. If you are a big goal setter and you have those available, if not, that's okay. This is a perfect time to start. But I like to revise and recommit to my goals when I'm doing a quarterly business planning session. What I mean by that is compare your projections from the first of the year and revise as appropriate. So this isn't necessarily to say let yourself off the hook. There are still 3 months of the year. If you're way off of where you thought you might be, I don't look at it as letting yourself off the hook. What I do is revise and set more realistic expectations. So if I'm looking at, okay, this is my sales pipeline, this is the revenue that I'm at right now, realistically, I'm probably not going to hit what I had initially planned for the year, I'll revise it. But then what I will also do is say, okay, what happened there? Why didn't I reach my goals? Was there, was my focus somewhere else for the first part of the year? Or did something happen in the market that meant there was a lower demand for my services? I'll try to understand, okay, if I am going to revise them, what has happened to facilitate that? And if you're going the other way, if you're saying, hey, I've already blown through my yearly goals, this is a perfect time to revise and say, okay, here is, phase 2 of what this goal looks like. I'm not just quitting for the rest of the year. Here's what I want to happen in the next 3 months. I also like to recommit. So it's so easy, and this goes back to why I'm not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions. It's so easy to set goals and then forget them. You get bogged down in your day-to-day, challenges come up, you kind of forget about what you wanted to do on a more macro basis. So recommit to what your goals are and understand what are the roadblocks to getting there and how can you overcome them. And this is a perfect opening session for the day because it helps you really, at least for me, when we're talking about goals, it's super motivating for me because every goal that I have in my business is attached to a why. If I want to make a certain amount of money, there's a reason behind that. It's because I'm going to reinvest in my business and do something cool next year. Or it's because, if I want to help a certain number of clients, there's a reason why behind that. So I find it really motivating to talk about goals first thing in the morning and really recommit to achieving those goals and how we can get there. Now, once you've done that for 2018 or for the year that you're in, then I want you to start thinking about goals for 2019 and how you can project what you've done, the success that you found this year, and project that into the future. What do you want to add on to that in 2019 in the life of your business? And also, what do you want to take away? Are you doing things in your business this year that you have found you don't love doing, you don't want to do them anymore, they're not working for you? Pull those goals out and take those out and start to write down what your plans are and what your goals are for 2019. When I set goals, this is the kind of format that I use. I walk through this with my clients as well when we go through a goal setting kind of practice. I start with focus areas, and I do this in my life, not just in my business, but I have focus areas in which I build goals underneath. So for example, focus areas could be your business, it could be family, it could be travel, it could be hobbies, whatever is important to you in your life. And if you want to narrow it just to business, it could be something like sales, team members, education. Like you could build those focus areas within just a business umbrella, but determine what is important to you so that you're not just making goals that are arbitrary, but that are fitting into a larger view of what you want your business to look like. Then under each focus area, I start to list specific goals. I always include a revenue goal. I include a time goal, like how many projects I want to take on. And what that translates to is how many hours I'm working every day. I also make content goals. So I want to create a certain number of videos every year. I want to put out a certain number of blog posts every year. So whatever those goals look like, and how they're going to translate to your larger goal of business growth is what goes under those focus areas. This is the key part. So if you've tuned me out until now, this is what is really important when we're talking about goal setting, and that's how you measure it. Because we can set goals all day long, but if we're not measuring throughout the year how we're tracking towards those goals, they don't mean anything, right? If we're not constantly aware of how close we are, how much harder we need to work, or how many more clients we need to get to reach our goals, then we're just going with the flow, which is fine. There are plenty of businesses out there that are successful doing that. But we're talking about business planning today, and measurement is key. Now, this can be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet that you track every week or every 2 weeks or every month that you have set on your calendar, where you go through and update your revenue, update the team members that you've hired, update those steps that you've made towards your goals. Or there are plenty of software tools out there that can do this for you as well. I use something called Insightly, and it basically tracks my pipeline of sales. So that's incorporated into my measurement and my my review when I'm looking at my goals. The last thing that I include when I talk about goal setting is incentivizing. This is really key, not only if you have employees that are involved in reaching your goals, but yourself as well. So I like to incentivize myself, and if I hit certain levels of goals, there will be little rewards attached to that. And I know that, okay, if I hit this certain number in terms of my revenue, I can afford to take a trip, or I can afford to buy something new for my house. And if you guys follow me, I am in a new house this year, and so have been trying desperately to decorate. But incentivize both yourself and your employees in a way that's meaningful to you. And that's going to just help keep people motivated. What it also does, and something that I try to instill in my clients as they're setting goals, is to set layers of goals. So set a minimum goal that, okay, if at all costs, this is the number that I want to hit. Then set kind of a medium goal that's like, okay, I should be able to hit this number, but it's going to take a good bit of work. And then set a stretch goal for, okay, in my wildest dreams, if I'm really reaching, this is what I want to hit. And you'll see underneath this video, and I'll talk about it at the end, I've put together a goal setting or a business planning template for you guys, and you'll see that's how I structure my goal setting. Goal setting is in kind of three levels. And you can incentivize yourself, you can incentivize your employees according to those 3 levels. So that's what really, when you're talking about goal setting, I like to use this framework because it keeps everybody on the same page, and it helps you organize your goals and make sure that they're all kind of working together. I know that sounds silly when talking about goals, but I think that it really is something that if all of your goals are working together towards a common purpose of growth, then you're going to be that much more motivated to kind of keep track of them, and you're going to be that much more energized because you're all driving towards the same direction, and you're going to see that growth much quicker. All right, so the second step, and if you guys know me, this is my least favorite part of business planning because I'm not a huge math person, but it's also fun because it's great to look at the driving factor behind your business, and that is your financial planning. So I put here, cash is the fuel that drives your business, and that is so true. As much as as callous as it may seem, ultimately, your cash flow is your ability to grow your business, at least quickly. And so being able to not only take a look at your existing financial status, but also being able to project that into the new year is really important to be able to understand what you're going to be able to do from a marketing perspective, what you're going to be able to invest in your team, what you're going to be able to invest in your products and services. So here are the important numbers that I look at. I'm not going to get too in-depth here. I actually, for myself, because I have a fairly simplified business structure, I keep it pretty simple when I'm reviewing this quarterly, and then every year I go a little bit more in-depth. But the numbers that I look at every quarter are my revenue numbers. So I'll look at revenue to date. Then I will look at my costs, and this is pretty tricky. So when you are looking at costs in terms of revenue, you want to look at the cost that it takes for you to create or offer your products or services. So cost of goods sold is kind of the technical term. This isn't going to include your operations expenses of running your business. There are some outside expenses that don't play into actually creating your product and services. So try to differentiate those as you are going through your expenses. This is a great time of year, if you haven't been keeping up with it, to go through and categorize all your expenses and organize your finances, because come the first part of the year and that tax time, it's just going to have been continued to pile up. So if you haven't been doing those, this is your reminder. The other important number that I look at are those business expenses. So what have I spent money on outside the cost of what it takes to create what it is that I do? What are those expenses that I've incurred through the first part of the year? Once I have those numbers for 2018 or for the current year, then I project for 2019. And there's no, I won't say that there's not a scientific way to do this. There is. For me, what I do is I look at what my goal is in terms of growth. So I'll say, okay, if I want to grow by 25% next year, if I want to make $20,000 more in revenue, what I do is say, okay, this is what it costs me to get to this number today. If I want to add 25%, I will just do a straight up conversion there and add 25%. What I will also do, and again, you'll see this in the template if you take advantage of the template that I've linked below. What I will also do is break down categories of expenses and categories of revenue. So if I see that 80% of my revenue is coming from one particular product line or one particular service, we can do a couple things. If I like providing that product or service, I can go all in and say, okay, that's clearly where my growth is coming from. That's clearly where the demand is. If it's not something that I love, then I know that I need to spend more time and money marketing my other products and services. So you can do a lot of cool things when you're looking at your revenue numbers as long as it's tracked appropriately. And that's something that I can't stress enough. So once you have your numbers both for the current year and for next year, what you're looking to spend in revenue, what that is going to, or I'm sorry, what you're looking to get in revenue, what that's going to cost you in cost of goods sold, and then business expenses, this is a good time to think about, okay, are there any infrastructure updates that I'll need in the next year? What marketing budget am I looking at in order to reach my goals? Those types of things. And again, for me, it works to take what I've spent this year and then increase by whatever my goal for growth is. Once you have those numbers, it's time to do some calculations. So first is your profit. So you're going to take your revenue and subtract your costs out, and that's obviously your profit. So if that's really important to your business, so for some businesses, that's a huge difference between what they bring in and what their actual profit is. So depending on what number makes more sense for you, you might want to look at profit numbers versus revenue when you're doing your projections if you have a pretty high cost of goods sold. The other thing you're going to calculate is what you want to spend in your budget. So like I just mentioned, marketing, education, tools like infrastructure, software that you need to run your business, like those types of things. This is a great time if you haven't denoted those in your expenses. This is a great time to organize that and then project, okay, what do I need for the next year? Am I good with what I currently have, or will I need to add on top of that? And then that way you can plan for those additional expenses in the coming year. If you find yourself a little bit off track when it comes to your financial goals, so if we're 9 months into the year and you are 50% to your financial goals, don't panic. First of all, we talked about revising. That's perfectly okay. But here are another few, and I don't want to say quick fixes because they're not, but here are a few strategies that you can employ if you're like, okay, this is the last quarter of the year. I really need to, get my shit together. Here are a few ways that you can hit your financial goals over the last quarter. One is by increasing prices. You can take this opportunity to say, okay, I'm planning to increase my prices in the coming year. You can do a couple strategies. If you're planning to increase your prices in the coming year, this is a great chance to reach out to your current clients and say, hey, last chance to get in at these current prices and see if you can get a bump in sales. With new clients, this is a great time to increase your prices because you only have so much time left in the year. And so that money, that difference between where you are now and where you want to be is going to have to come from somewhere. You're either going to have to work with more clients or you're going to have to increase your prices. My recommendation is to play with pricing. The second thing that you can do is sell a byproduct. So if you look at your business and you, let's say you're an artist, and I actually know an artist who does this. She sells her palettes. So when she creates a painting, she has her little kind of side sheet, and I'm not an artist, so forgive me, but she has like almost her doodle paper that turns out looking really gorgeous because it's basically just a palette of all the colors that she uses in her painting. And she started selling those online and as kind of more abstract art. And it was a great little additional revenue stream for her. So think about a byproduct of your business. If you sell a service, like for me, doing these webinars, doing content is almost a byproduct of my business because I talk about business all day with my clients and then I can kind of recreate that into content. So think about how you can work smarter rather than harder and sell a byproduct of what you're already doing. The third thing is obviously to decrease spending. So if you look at your expenses and you see, hey, I'm spending all this money, I'm not really seeing the return, this is a perfect time to rein in on that and see if you can increase your profit margins a little bit throughout the end of the year. And the fourth thing is developing new products. And I like to think about this with my client in mind first, rather than, okay, what could I possibly create? Think about what is my client buying that they could buy from me if they knew that I created it, but they're going elsewhere right now. So what problem do they have that I could solve really easily? Whether it's an upsell from your existing products or services or a corresponding product, or even a partner product. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But think of a new product or service that you could offer to your clients and do kind of a mini launch around the holidays and see if you can get a boost around that holiday time. That's a great way, again, to push the needle a little bit more if you're a little bit off track with your financial goals. And that leads us directly into talking about products and services and how to plan for expansion in the new year. We talked about it earlier. What can you add or remove? So if you're looking at your revenue streams and saying, okay, what percentage of my revenue comes from each one of my products or services, that should give you a roadmap for, okay, what I'm going to really invest in this type of product or service, whereas this isn't performing as well and I might not need to spend time doing it next year. So think about what can you add or remove that is going to help streamline, make your business more efficient, and increase your profits and your revenue. Here are a few ideas. If you're looking to add products, if you're looking to differentiate your product line, we talked about a byproduct of your business. And I think that that's a really great thing to look at because it's something that we wouldn't normally think of. So look at what you can sell that is already happening, that you already have. For some of you, it could be something as simple as education. If you think about my business, and I like to use myself as an example, but I use my knowledge as a byproduct of my consulting services. And what I mean by that is I create an online course that essentially was what I was talking about every day, but it allows me to reach so many more people than I would be able to on a one-on-one basis. So education can be a byproduct of your services. Even if you sell a product, if you are I keep going back to artists. If you're an artist or a wedding planner, or you own a boutique, or you are an expert in some area, you can sell your expertise, whether it's an online course or lessons or hosting an event. Consider what byproduct you can pull out of your business to make you more profitable and to add an additional revenue stream. The second thing to think of, we talked about a minute ago as well, is upselling. So what do your clients want that you're not giving them? And you can even go to your clients. If you have a focus group, or if you have a board of directors, or if you have a few clients that you can really trust and say, hey, if I was looking to expand, what else would you love to see me provide? And get their feedback. That way you're not just guessing and crossing your fingers and hoping that it works. You're getting real-time valuable information from your clients, from those people that are going to purchase from you. I love the idea of partnering. If you have heard me speak at all, or if you've read any of my stuff, you guys know how much I love partnerships and the strategy of partnering with other businesses. This is really cool. If you're looking to expand, look for complementary businesses that you can partner with. So can you refer your clients to someone and get a referral fee from them? This happens a lot in the financial world. It happens a lot if you think about it in medical cases, they don't necessarily get referral fees, but if someone refers a client to you, not only are they coming in with, kind of an initial trust that they have because someone that they work with is recommending you, but it costs you absolutely nothing to be able to get that client. So find those complementary businesses that you can either refer clients to back and forth, or for example, I have a couple people that I work with that I send them business if it's not something that I can take on, and then I just get a percentage of what they ultimately do. So think about how you can partner with other companies to continue to serve your clients and get a percentage of the work that they do. I put this products/services in here because I think that we tend to get stuck in, I'm either a product-based company or a service-based company, and I think that's a mistake. So if you sell products, think about what services go with that product. And if you sell services, think about what products your clients are also interested in. I think that we get that backwards in thinking about our businesses like, okay, this is exactly what I do. And what we really need to be thinking about is how the client goes through the purchase process. So kind of flip the script on your business and think about, okay, what can I provide that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone? Even if we circle back and use a partner to provide that and work out an agreement with a partner to provide the product or services that you're looking for. But flip the script and think about kind of the opposite scenario and what your clients might be willing to, or might be looking for. And then this last piece we talked about, these first four we've been talking about adding products and services. This last piece is obviously talking about removing them. So if something is underperforming, if it's not something that you enjoy doing, if it's costing too much for you to create, if the profit margin isn't there, don't be afraid to remove it. It is only going to streamline your business and help propel you towards growth more quickly. All right. Once we've gotten through the finances, the goal setting, we've kind of talked about products and services and what our business is going to look like from a structural perspective in the coming year. Now it's time to talk about marketing. And this is the key time that you want to review what's working and what's not working. And this is going to fall back on how important it is to measure results when it comes to all of your marketing campaigns. So if you haven't been measuring already, this is your reminder to start doing it. Same thing when we were talking about finances and kind of categorizing expenses for tax season. This is your reminder to review your marketing efforts and understand if you are investing in specific campaigns, if you're investing in specific strategies, understanding what is the ROI that's coming out of it so that you can make informed decisions in talking about your strategies for the coming year. So we're first going to analyze your results. And what I like to do is I like to list every single thing that I've done from a promotional standpoint throughout the year. And I will go back and in my in my CRM system, my customer relationship management system, I track where each client comes from. So I can pull up and say, okay, if I did a Facebook ad, I can actually point to exactly how many people came from that Facebook ad. If I speak at an event, I can point to how many people did I connect with at that event and how many of those became clients. So you can look and truly know what marketing strategies are being effective for your business, and so you know where to reinvest in the next year. Then here's where you can make adjustments. So these are the 6 kind of big categories that I think about marketing in. There are obviously many, many more, and there are some that are specific to specific industries. But in a broad kind of general sense, I like to think about marketing in promotions, events, advertising, referrals, partnerships, and content. These are the 6 big pillars for me. And I would go, if you have your team there, kind of on this day where you're doing your business planning, I would go down the line and say, okay, first let's brainstorm and think, okay, what could we do in the coming year to promote our businesses in each one of these areas? Think outside the box, kind of do stream of consciousness, don't add any limitations. And then once you've done that brainstorming, then you can go back and say, okay, which one of these do we want to prioritize? And we'll talk about prioritizing in just a second. But how many of these do we want to prioritize? And looking at the results that we've gotten from similar strategies in the past, where can we invest that we know that we'll see the return? And I think that that's the key piece of it is for me, when I look at my marketing budget, there's a certain number that I use to test. So I will use new strategies that I've not necessarily tried in the past. But the vast majority of my marketing budget is spent on things and strategies that I know are going to convert, that I know my audience is listening to, that I know I can reach the right type of clients. So use that as a baseline when you're looking at how you and projecting how much you should invest into each strategy in the future. The other thing that I like to do on a quarterly basis is plan promotions. So I'll look at the full year of 2019 and say, what cool promotions can I host or can I plan for specific times of the year that my clients are going to be into? So if this is especially relevant if you're in retail. My retail clients, we actually do this kind of on a rolling 3-month period, and we'll say, okay, like for the next 3 months, you've obviously got Black Friday, you've got Cyber Monday, you've got holiday sales, you've got New Year's. So like, what are the promotions that you want to run around each one of those things? If you're a service-based business, There might be times of the year, like for example, if you run a heating and air company, there are very specific times of the year that you have to take advantage of. So look at the year as a whole and figure out what are the times of the year that you need to make a big push, because very few companies are, consistent throughout 12 months of the year. Many businesses have that more cyclical or more kind of busy months versus slower months model. So know when you need to make a push from a marketing perspective, and go ahead and write that out and plan for those campaigns so it doesn't sneak up on you and you can make the most of it. What that's also going to do is help eliminate some of the differential. If you're ahead of the curve a little bit, you're less reliant on the seasons, you're less reliant on kind of the typical busy season versus slow season. If you have a marketing plan for the full year, it helps curb some of that volatility in your revenue stream and in your income. All right, finally, once you have all this information down, you've been brainstorming, you've projected for 2019, the last thing that you want to do is create your priorities and set a task list. You guys know I'm all about taking action. And I think that it's the number one thing that you can do to move your business forward. And I know that sounds obvious. You're like, duh, Brett, obviously taking action is going to move my business forward. But it's the 1% of people that actually do it are those that are successful. The other 99%, and I can tell you this from experience because I have clients that fall in both categories, the other 99% will plan, they will talk about it, they will brainstorm, and it never happens because they get bogged down in the day-to-day. So take this opportunity that you have right now to prioritize and to create a task list that is both for you and delegated to your team if you have one, that you start to get things done now so that it doesn't all fall in January. I love this quote by George Patton. It says, "A good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan tomorrow." And I think that just perfectly sums up what I'm trying to get across to you guys. Spend a day planning and then execute, because that's what's going to matter. If you are executing, you're going to be making progress. If you think about it in those terms, if you execute for a week, think about where you are versus if you plan for a week. You've already made so much more progress. So a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. So take action. As you plan, I want you to prioritize. So you've got everything down. At the end of the day, come back and say, okay, what do we really need to make happen? Go back and look at your goals and say, what are the things that we need to make happen to ensure that we hit our goals? And this is where you can talk about hiring. Do we need to grow the team? What is that going to cost us? How are we going to make up for that by adding a team member? So I look at team members as I would any other investment in my business. I expect a certain ROI from my investment in them. So make sure that you have those numbers. If you're going to add a team member, how is that going to help you hit your revenue goals? And make sure that the advantage of bringing someone on is more than what it's going to cost you. So go through and prioritize and say, okay, and this is usually going to come to the marketing aspect of it and prioritizing what campaigns you want to run, prioritizing what promotions you're going to run, and then also I would say marketing and products and services if you're going to add some services. So go through and prioritize and say, okay, these are the things that I think have to happen. Then what I want you to do is break down the tasks, and it can be super overwhelming. I'm not telling you to break down tasks over the whole course of the next 365 days. This is where the kind of finishing the year strong comes in. I want you to break down tasks that you can handle over the next 3 months that are going to put you in a really strong position when the calendar turns in January. So once you've prioritized the things that you want to execute, under each one, break down the tasks that need to happen to make sure that you're in a good spot in January. And I always use this example to demonstrate the difference. You can say, and this, I'm 100% guilty of it. You can say, okay, I want to build a new website. That is so much more difficult to get started doing, because every time, let's say you have 10 minutes, you have 30 minutes, you have, even an hour of free time. If I have build a new website on my to-do list, there's no way, because I'm like, where do I even start? But if I break that project down and say, okay, first I need to buy a domain name, then I need to set up hosting, then I need to choose a theme, then I need to write the web copy, then I need to source images, and I break that larger project down into actionable tasks, then all of a sudden, if I have 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, I can buy a domain name, and I'm slowly inching that project forward rather than just pushing it to the bottom of the to-do list because it's too intimidating. So that's the key for breaking down tasks. And then finally, as you're planning, as you kind of have this day, I like to have a parking lot. And what I will do, I will usually put a big white poster board up on the wall, tape it to the wall, and that will be our parking lot. So if we come across an idea that doesn't necessarily fit in with what we're talking about right now, but we don't want to lose it, that is where it goes, so that we don't get off track talking about an idea that's not productive, but we have this parking lot of ideas that when we revisit, or if we have time at the end of the day, we can go through and expand further. And that'll help you stay on track, because this is kind of a marathon of a day, right? If you're going through all of these different aspects of your business, it can be tiring, it can be a marathon of a day. And so especially if you have team members where you're all collaborating and brainstorming, that parking lot is going to be crucial to keep you guys on track. All right, so let's talk about next steps. So I have a 5-day challenge for you guys. If you haven't already gone through my Business Plan to Profit challenge, this is a perfect time of the year to do it. It's 5 days. It is super easy. You get an email in your inbox every morning and a little video from me telling you, hey, this is one way that you can move your business forward this week. And it is totally geared towards businesses that don't have a ton of infrastructure. So if you're saying, oh, well, I'm not ready yet, or I don't have a huge budget, this is 100% for you. The second next step that I want you to do is download the business planning guide that I've been referencing. I will link it below, but it's basically an Excel spreadsheet that you can use to track everything that we talked about on this webinar and everything that you're going to be going through during this day. So I hope that you guys will take my advice and set aside a day to do this, because it's so easy to kind of mail in the last part of the year and say, oh, it's the holidays and I'm going to be traveling so much. But guys, we are going to blink and it is going to be January 1st. And the difference between a company and a business owner who is ready to roll on January 1st and one who is just coming out of a holiday hangover is massive. So definitely you want to be the former, and this kind of structure is going to help you get there. If you have questions, you guys know where to reach me. That's my site. My email is just brett@brettrally.com. If you can spell my name, you can get in touch with me. So if you have questions, or if you're like, hey, do you have these resources, or can you share what you do with this specific situation, I am more than happy to answer them. So shoot me a note. Otherwise, keep an eye out. I'm also doing videos this month on competitive advantages and 6 launch strategies that are guaranteed to succeed. So keep an eye out for those as well. Otherwise, good luck with your business planning, and we will see you next time.